Oh, that's just BS. It shouldn't be routing through that. Properties default. What's this? Is it Logitech?
Logitech. Okay, there we go. Microphone should be working now. That should have my microphone working now. Soundtrack, mic, yeah, microphone. Alrighty. I'm sorry. I honestly haven't been streaming since my daughter was born a year ago, so OBS is kind of broken. Jesus, lower that down a bit. There you go. I shouldn't be so loud now, but yeah, it's been a while. Dub that down to 10. Minus 9.8, yeah. Maybe a little lower. Let me know if I'm getting a little too soft. It looks like I'm just hitting the yellow bars, so the microphone's freaking sensitive as hell. Anyway, as I was saying, since you're probably just watching me screw around, you couldn't hear what I was actually saying. When I first started playing this game, Nature, these two boards here were underneath the sand, and because they weren't aligning properly, the character got stuck in the doorway. I'd hit my head on the doorway. So, if you're not building on a straight line, it's difficult to go through the door. It's like, bonk, and you have to like crouch and jump to get through your door. And then you have this tree sticking through my wall. Evil tree. There's no staircase. I can't build up. I mean, there's no thatched roof either. In the pirate area, you had thatched roofs. No thatched roof. Gameplay. Camera, very low. Let's go for ultra high. Okie dokie. Oh, ultra high. Wow, that actually looks a lot better. Sweet. Alright, let's see if that glitch is still happening. Hui! And dive down, get out of build mode. And yep, my feet are still coming through the boots. Hey, clothing mismatch. You're underwater, mate. How are you standing up? And then you got the merman. Woo! It's like the bottom half of the boy is convinced it's done in the water, and the top half of the boy is like, I can do this. I'm the merman swimming along. So yeah, a couple things broken. Mismatched clothing, merman mode. That's just swimming. Yeah. As I said before, but apparently my microphone was mute. This is version 0.1, so they're just starting out. Not much going on. Just screwing around. Oh, look at that. He's running with his... I can see the skin through his boots. This face is kind of terrifying, actually, and the beard looks like it's plaster. Beard kind of looks like plaster. Not very beard-like. Yeah. But yeah, if the house is not aligned properly, you get stuck in pieces of it. And there's no staircase up. I managed to find a slope too that fit the roof. Dock stairs. Oh, dock stairs. Hello. Shred. I want to build a dock now. Oh. Yeah, let's try an idea. This is gonna drive me nuts. Oh, I'm building stairs. Check it out. All right, hang on. I don't need dock stairs. What the hell do I need? Quad dock floor, right? Dock stairs. All right. Full wood floor, inclined wood floor. Yeah, I don't know. Should do it. Yeah. Second floor. Hello. Figured it out. Cause oh wait, that's yeah. There we are. Get the wood aligned the right direction. All right, got a second floor. Very early tester. What can we do? I mean, I'm not very artistic, so I don't build that well, to be honest. I build a box, and there's a box. You understand? A box. Yeah, no, that's not right. On the wall. I build boxes. I'm not an architect. Alright, now my favorite thing to do when I get free reign of building stuff is to. Oh, hang on. I want to put a window in there. Is to see how high I can build it before I break the game. So I'm going to bring my box up above the trees. Alright, there we go. Alright, I want it at. My stupidity can go at this end. Now, 1, 2. Oh, this is gonna drive me nuts. Oh, goddamn. Alright, we'll start with the stairs. Dock stairs. Come back one. Oh, gosh. Help me in the river. I might have screwed this up. Because I have to build 2 staircases, I might need more space. I'm not quite sure yet. See how this plays out. Yeah, alright, see how this plays out. Yes, I'm gonna have to. Alright. This one's gonna be weird. I'm not sure how I do that. I mean, this ends easy. You just go, bloop, turn around, bloop, then you get your full slope, bam, 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 done. This one's kind of like not the right tile. I have an idea. Let me. I'm a crazy man sitting in a tree. Somebody went and called me nuts. So, Lotso. That does not work. Oh, I had a little trouble getting up the stairs then. How do I make that look realistic? Triangle wood, piece of trees. I have no idea. I'm actually having a little trouble getting up this last step. Getting stuck on this step. There's the. Hey, no, stuck on the step. Look down, you get stuck on the steps. There you go. I found another glitch. Yay! You look down, you get stuck on a step. Dock stairs. There we go. Alright, I want to build up, but the problem with this is that at some point, well, why aren't you stepping too? Oh crap, I lost my door. Hello? Door? I think I did something wrong. I closed up the floor. Made that particular spot redundant. Alright, not a problem. I don't need it anyway, do I? There we go. Build from the outside. I'm getting stuck on that last step. That's some walking forwards. Break that. Oh, no, no. You know what? Why? Getting stuck on the steps if I don't take it right. It's a little off-putting, isn't it? Alright. Ideas. How do we keep going forwards while being smart, Alex? Wall goes there. Oh, did I make a mistake? Oh, bother. There we go. We are taking notes. You have both devs on your stream. And I got 3 viewers, so that means there's an extra person. Yeah. But yeah, I'm currently building up through this tree, which is going all the way through the house. So it's like, yeah, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Oh, I can't do this. Oh no, that's wrong. How do I? Whoops, fell off the house. How do I turn this thing around? Scrolling's not working. It's not rotating. Pain in the. Hang on. Yeah, got it. I mean, it's a bit messed up, really. Let's make it look a little bit more presentable. Wrong one. There you go, a little bit more presentable. Yeah, sort of. It's a room. Go upstairs. I mean, that stair on the thing is going to screw up the door unless it opens outwards. Away from the staircase. Otherwise, it's just going to screw up the door. The little box. I'm in a box. Hi, Windrose Games. How you doing? Welcome to the chat. Good to hear from you. Now, I was doing something. What the hell was I doing? I was doing something foolish. Where's my dock stairs? Dock stairs? Hey! Oh no, that's not the dock stairs I was using. Our box is getting smaller. Wait. That's not the one I chose. I chose the window. There we go. Yeah. Gives a little window. Hang on, why didn't that come in? Well, that's weird. Did I run out of resources? I feel like I ran out of resources. I'm good, Heidi. I'm surviving. Stability limit. Yeah, that sounds right. Alright, let's test your stability limit theory. That can't be right. Am I using the right staircase? There we go. Foundation wood floor. Stability. Oh, I think you're right. Woo! That's as high as I can build. Oh look, I built Ron Weasley's house. How can my volume be off? Sure, the volume's working. Oh, maybe you just have yours turned off. Alright. Stuck on the staircase. Ran out of stability. Can't build any higher. Alright, so this is the highest you can build. It's watchtower mode. Oh. Alright, that's gotta be something to do with these pillar things. Alright, let's see if we can fix this. Whoops. Nearly broke myself. Put up. Put up. Bam! We have a pillar. But it didn't fix those, so what's up? Well, here back. Sorry. Alright, sorry guys. I will be back in 5 minutes. I have to run out the front because apparently there's someone walking around with a torch out there and there's a lot of banging, so I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Sorry. Okay. I'm back. Oops, that's not right. What on earth am I doing? There's the game. Yeah, alright. There's the game. I got it. Alright. Let's see if we can stick a pole there. Pole there. There we go. There we go. We got that one. My shanty little shack's starting to look more and more like Ron Weasley's house. Come on, that's not right. Alright, so we got your little wood piece poking through the floorboard. Yeah, I'll definitely give it another go when it has more features and less bugs. But before that, I'd like to complain because you got this little piece poking through the floorboards, but it's not supporting the next piece. And if you require me to put these pillars down for every single piece, that's gonna start looking, well, yeah, just a little. And this piece should be supporting that a bit better, so that piece should be coming in a bit better. That one goes straight down to the ground, so honestly that should be working. It doesn't make why is that one working, but this one, which is attached to a straight down, isn't? That just doesn't make sense to me. Sorry. Well, that reached the thing, but that didn't fill in. Yes, I've tried diagonal beams. See, there's one right there. Oh, you mean? Yeah, right. No problem. That doesn't work. It doesn't want to be a part of the house. Doesn't want to be a part of it. Yeah. So a few issues here in the building wise. These bits up here that aren't supported should be a little bit more supported, I think. Keep getting stuck on these freaking staircase. Doors opening out with like, I do this all the time, Rich. But yeah, these should be supported and filling in because they go straight down to the ground. And there's these freaking poles supporting this piece, which support those ones. Just saying. and that's connected to the house below. So honestly, that piece should be supported, but it's not. So this is the height of my heightness. Heightiness. This tall as I can build. Unless this works. It does not. Oh, that won't work. Go figure. Yeah. This is my watchtower. I will stand on my watchtower forever. Whoops. Zoom. Big fat pillar. Yay! I mean, this is kind of. That's weird. Another problem there. Beam's not supporting the beams. Yeah, see, it's not quite making it all the way up. Even though it should be. Trying to support it all, and it's just going, no, not doing it. What the? Oh, see, they're coming through my roof down this end. Ah. Oops, slipped off. Yeah. Oh, that's a little better. Destroy my house, man, just to make it work. Pills in the way now. Did it work? Did it work? Did it work? It did not work. No, it didn't work. Oh, we did this one, didn't we? That was intelligent of me, wasn't it? Try this again. Hang on. Broken everything. Wait a second. Alright. Well, at least got that part working. Let's see if we can get this part working to the ground. I mean, it's a real pain in the ass to have it going through the house. Did that work? Nope, did not work. Oh well. All the way into the ground, it still didn't even work. I mean, this one went all the way to the ground and that didn't even work. I'm not even going through the house. Well, that looks like that's the limit to how high I can build. My little Harry Potter house. Ron Weasley house, really. Oh, right. Little hyperlink here. There you go. What upsets me about the OBS Twitch is that when you try to check on who's actually watching, it comes up with everyone that has watched instead of just going, oh yeah, these are the ones that are currently watching. So it's very confusing. Or maybe there actually is all those people that are watching it, but I just don't know what I'm talking about. Why aren't you working? Properties, default. There you go. Now you can hear what I can hear. Music! But then if I let that continue going on, friggin' oh, that's dying. Well, YouTube will end up having an issue with it. But yeah, propagating the poles all the way down doesn't fix it. I ran out of ideas, so there we go. I mean, the bee is kind of scary. It kind of looks like clay and stuff. Tattoos and yellow eyes. Some black eyeliner for eyebrows on. Might just be painted on. Clothes are. All over the place. Then you have the two swimming issues I pointed out. Yeah, the place ain't level, gets kind of weird. Unfortunately, I can't think of anything else to do. I tried building a bridge. Let's build a bridge. I want to build. What? Oh, you can't double jump, right? I'm a smart cricket. What? Alright, I'm gonna build a dock. We're gonna start our dock right here. I don't want a big pole, I want a little pole. Little big pole. Foundation. Oh. What? Shit. I can't put the friggin' I see something. Alright. goods. Alright, alright. Stop the staircase. We're going for a big ship. Alright, fair enough. We'll start again. Silly idea. A little high off the ground. Start again. Slope base 1, half dot 4. Gosh, no. A little high. Come on. Alright. Foundation. I gotta learn to make sure I'm clicking this in the right spot before I click. That makes sense. Well, to be fair, this looks more like a ramp than actual staircases. This upsets me. I mean, like, these are supposed to be staircases. these are slopes, not staircases. Dock stairs. So they were slopes, not actual staircases. That was my mistake. There we go. Oh, well. Okay. Now we have our little stairs. And I love holes to make it look realistic. There we go. Little stairs. Foundation. I'm not too worried about the middle one so much. Don't really need to support the middle one that much. Sounds a little like a dock. Yeah. For a little D-boat. Like, if we have like a bigger ship, we're gonna need to build a bigger dock. But at the moment, we just have this tugboats to go off of. What's this? Full dock floor. Oh, there you go. Stick that there and go. Alright, going into the water, so we're now docks ahoy. Ah, that's awesome. Let's see if we can do. Yep, that's half top floor. I want a fence, to be honest with you. Kind of like if I went clickety, click. And from there I went. Bam! We have a railing, son! On the other side. that one seemed a little higher. Settings. Music the hell off. See, I don't notice those sorts of things because I tune repetitive things out. Once they become repetitive, I just tune them out. There you go, that looks about right. Oh, freaking camera angling, driving me nuts. There we are. Got a little railing. Got the start of our bridge. That's awesome. Alright, let's see how far out into the ocean we can get it before it starts breaking. This is the part that takes a while. Foundation. Ah, sweet. Look at that. Don't worry, I'll be swimming soon. Can't do that. Can you swim and build at the same time? We're about to find out. In 10 minutes. Alright. Ah. Mama. Alright, I want to. Rebuild it. Oh. Don't be mean to me. That one. Microphone, the headphones don't do anything because there's no. A&E, right, sorry, I forgot. Headphones aren't actually doing anything, not really sound coming through it, other than the Perv. Build. The hammer. Oh, I can't jump that high. Of course I can't. I'm not Mighty Mouse. Even the right one. Oh, bother. There we go. Now if I switch across to this one, and I go up to that, that will put that piece down there for me, so I can just switch through them and get back to it really quickly. Oh, quicker. I just figured that out. I'll share it with you. I discovery. Alright, let's actually see how far out we can go. I just had a thought. We can do edges whenever we want, but we can't do the middle one. So I have to do the middle one as we go. Pop. 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 Oh, we're swimming. And we can still build. Let's do this. That's just Twitch telling me I'm live. Do this. Oh, bother. Water moved. Water moved at the last second and got me. That's another 3. That means we go. Oh, forgot the ammo. This is getting harder. Whoops. There we go. Oops. Wrong button. I can still do this. Alright, there we go. Feel like we're not quite far enough out for a dinghy, but on the other hand, we could be. rocks here that damaged the dinghy if we came up. So it would have been better if we had built the bridge over here on this side, because there's no rocks. Could come in there, but well, we're here now, and to be honest with you, I kind of lost my motivation to keep going. Yeah, it's an interesting game. It looks like it has potential. You can see you can build railings if you get creative. Build little docks. I mean, I could come out to these rocks and then go sideways. Nothing stopping me from doing that. Then you can just sail in and up to the side of it and jump off. But, that's a lot of effort, and it's only 0.1, so a lot of bugs to work out, and I've proven my point already. Like, you can go out. Gets a little difficult to build out here with the wave moving you. Yeah, it's doable, and it looks cool. You know, yeah, I think it's possible. I think you can do it. What? I'm going to save that for a later bug test when there's more involved. Yeah. I think I'll save that for a later bug test. Thanks for watching.